Shabbat Shalom. Thanks, guys. It's nice to have all of you here. We are delighted. So, Rabbi Witkovsky, in honor of you having a guest, a musician and singer, I wanted to open with a story of a singer that happened about 90 years ago, a story of Ella Fitzgerald. And realizing all of the Israelis that we have with us. אתם מכירים את Ella Fitzgerald? Yeah? מזמרת מפורסמת בדור שעברה. Okay? Just, you'll come with me on that. So Ella Fitzgerald shows up to amateur night at the Apollo. The Apollo Theater on 135th Street, known as 25th, excuse me, my bad. Ugh. We're off to a great start. So, the Apollo Theater in Harlem, known for an amazing amateur night where people could come and sing, but also known for having a pretty rowdy crowd that was not forgiving to people who made mistakes or didn't bring their A game, unlike all of you. Yeah. So, a young Ella Fitzgerald has not performed publicly before in her life. She was a dancer who had only danced on the street to make money. That was basically what she had done, like on street corners dancing to the radio. But she goes to amateur night at the Apollo, and she sees all of these dancers that went up before her, and they were way better than she was, so she thinks, okay, I guess I have to sing, because I have to do something different. And so she goes up, and she starts to sing and completely bombs. Just horrible notes, just can't get it out. And the crowd starts to jeer, starts to shout, starts to do all the things that the crowd at the Apollo would do. And for some reason in this moment, the MC of the Apollo, his name was Ralph Cooper, he went out on stage. He shushed everyone, which is not a normal thing for him to have done. And he says, hey, hold on everybody. This young woman has a gift that she wants to share with us, and it's just taking her a little time to get it out of the box. Let's give her another try. And so she takes a deep breath, and she starts singing, and she just blows the roof off the place. And she becomes Ella Fitzgerald, the First Lady of American Song, in that moment, and begins a long and brilliant career, all because she got that chance from the audience, and all because she had the courage to get up there in the first place. And I love this story because it's fun, but I love this story, and I've been thinking about it a lot recently because I'm awed at the courage that she showed to stand out on that stage, to bring this gift she had of singing and try to share it with others. And I've been thinking about it because courage is something that I think we all need in our world today. The courage to stand up, the courage to bring what we can, the courage to be who we are. And it's something that we read about in the Parsha this morning as well. Now, all of our sacrifices that alone spoke beautifully about how it went and what we do and the hands and the animals and all of that, it was also the first moment in the Torah where Amcha is asked to do something, where the people without a name are asked to do something. Throughout the book of Genesis and the book of Exodus, there are people who show courage, to be sure, but they almost always get a name and a backstory and a private one-on-one with God. And so, of course, Abraham can show some courage. He's met the Lord. But in this moment with Vayikra, we think about just a common yid, a regular person who has to go up to the Beit HaMikdash and bring a sacrifice. And if you think about what it entailed, you had to take something rather expensive from your property. You had to carry it all the way up to Har HaBayit, all the way up the stairs. You had to go up to the Beit HaMikdash, to the temple, carrying your lamb, carrying your cow, carrying your grain, whatever you had. Everyone can see you. Everyone is watching you go up these stairs. They know you're bringing an offering. Most of the time, they know you're bringing a guilt offering. You've done something wrong, and you now have to walk up publicly with this offering, bring it to the priest, someone that you probably don't know, who's going to help you atone for what you've done in that moment. That took courage. It took courage to be a part of the Jewish people then. It takes courage to be a part of the Jewish people now as well, by the way. But to bring a sacrifice to the Beit HaMikdash was something that was not uncomplicated. It was not a scary thing to do. And the Talmud understands this and says that someone who brought even the smallest of offerings, just a handful of grain, it is as if, says the Talmud, they brought their very soul up to God. Because in order to take those steps, in order to be a part of the people, we ask nothing less than your soul and bringing all of who you are into this space. And Sefer HaChinuch goes even further and says, in this moment of bringing a sacrifice, the actions that we do are representative of our souls. And so taking a moment to do this sacrifice was not only about bringing property, it was not only about bringing your sin and your guilt, it was about being who you were completely in that moment, offering it up to the priests, but that action showing that you were willing to do something for this sin, do something for our people. Sefer HaChinuch reminds us that the actions of the sacrifices were important, but mostly because they would remind us to do the real work of atoning for the sins and apologizing or whatever it was that needed to happen. So from the first Israelite who offered the first sacrifice, we, the Jewish people, have been training for courage. It's baked into our DNA, and thank heaven it is, because courage is something that we need now more than ever. We need courage and sacrifice in individuals to face the world around us, to face, as Jews, the world around us, and to be a part of this people on this planet. Courage to be strong in the face of hate, and courage to find ways to fight for a brighter future. Courage to bring our very souls into what we do. Because as the Talmud reminds us, if we're going to do something, whether it is the smallest of sacrifices or the largest of asks of what it means to be a part of our people, it's not really worth it unless our whole soul is involved. And we have seen this time and time again in the past of our people. The courage that it took our ancestors to survive years and years of exile and keep still our religion alive. The courage it took to regroup and rebuild after each catastrophe that befell us in our long history. The courage to go back to our homeland and after millennia try to build it into a thriving nation. Was courage that our generations have shown. And we see courage all around us today. We see courage in the actions of Israelis. We see courage in Ori Megadish, who 4 months after being rescued from captivity in Gaza was back in uniform serving her country. We see courage in Yarden Bibas, the sole survivor of his family. Anyone would understand if he wanted to stay out of the public eye, but he has spoken out, imploring his government to save those hostages still there. And courage is found here as well. Courage is found in people who have dedicated their lives to the Jewish people, those who have made aliyah, those who work in fighting for the service of Israel. Also, courage is found in those who have dedicated their lives to the Jews of this land and the lands of exile also, to the service of our people in Jewish education and service to Jews everywhere. And those who work for our community as volunteers, as leaders, philanthropists. We live in a world where just being dedicated to community, to others, to people other than ourselves, takes a measure of courage to look outside of ourselves and see what we can do. And if we are doing it right, friends, then we offer up our very souls in the act of serving other people. And courage is found in people who speak up. People who speak up wherever they are, on campuses, in a world that might bring hate down upon them, but yet have the courage to speak out against what they know is wrong. courage to call out others when they would attack us. And as we recall, it takes great courage to speak out when others are against us, and greater courage still to speak to our friends when they're doing something that we think is wrong. And that is courage that we need today as well. There's no shortage of people shouting about the world, but it takes courage for each of us in our lives to say what we think and add our voices productively to the conversation. It takes courage to speak up in our community and make sure that our community reflects our values. It takes courage to speak when we know that we don't have actions yet to help, but we speak in order to remind us that we have to do something. It took courage to speak for 25 hours straight with nothing but a biblical verse in his pocket. Don't worry, I'm not trying to beat his record. It takes courage to say something to one's employers, to one's teachers, and as we said, hardest of all, to our friends, to speak up for who we are and what we believe in. Like the Talmud asks us, we need to act in this world, bringing whatever we can, bringing our souls to the service of our people. We need the courage even for small actions, knowing that larger ones will follow. And this courage is something needed in our own lives. Sometimes it is something that happens at the beginning, when we offer our bikurim. We need the courage to step out onto the stage and start singing, the courage to build something new, and courage to dedicate our lives to a worthy cause. But courage can also be needed later in our life as well. It takes courage to do something for the millionth time, when you know that it's right, but you fear it might not be working. And it can take courage just to step back out on stage and stay there singing, even if we know that our moment may have passed. Towards the end of his life, we're going to finish with another singer. Frank Sinatra, Israel's, come on, you know Frank Sinatra, right? Okay. No? Google it later. He was in a movie about Israel, okay? Towards the end of his life, Frank Sinatra had slowed down just a little, but old Blue Eyes still shone bright. He was on tour and performed for others, but he was starting to slip. Comedian Tom Dressen, who was his opening act, said that by the time he was about 78 years old, people mostly came to his concerts to say goodbye. They knew it was among the last times he'd be performing. And everyone wondered when he would finally lay down the mic. One night in an arena of about 20,000 people, Sinatra, in the middle of a song, completely forgets the words to something he had sung hundreds of thousands of times. And he stood there quietly as the orchestra played on, not knowing that he wasn't singing, just whispering, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." And finally the orchestra starts to get it, and they wind down, and he starts to walk off stage, and he puts the mic down. And Tom Dreesen says he was coming out to sort of thank Sinatra for his service and his years of entertaining. And in that moment, someone in the back of the audience shouts out, "That's okay, Frank. We love you. That's okay. That's okay." And everyone starts to clap. And Sinatra picks the mic up. He goes back out, signals to the orchestra to play the next song, and he's singing like he's 22 again. He's just nailing everything. And he would perform for another 2 years after that, because in that moment, he was buoyed by the applause of others, and he had the courage to keep going. And there are moments of courage that we see in our Parsha and our people, but in each of these stories, I want to point out one last thing. In the stories of Ella Fitzgerald, of Frank Sinatra, and of our nameless Jew coming to offer a sacrifice, there's someone else involved as well. There's Ralph Cooper defending Ella Fitzgerald so that she can get another chance. There's the priest waiting to accept the sacrifice and the Jew at the same time and help them be and remain a part of our people. And there's the nameless person shouting to Frank Sinatra to keep him going. We are in a time that needs courage, to be sure. The courage to stand up for our people, the courage to stand up for ourselves, the courage to stand up for a community and for working together, for working hard and not being afraid, the courage to stand up to the people around us as much to nameless forces of evil in our world. But so too, we must find the courage to protect others as they bring their offerings. Courage to facilitate the forgiveness and atonement that being in a community requires. And sometimes the courage to look at someone trying their best with all of their soul and failing and just say, that's okay. I love you. That's okay. Shabbat Shalom.